What's up, everybody? Michael Walsh here, and I just want to talk about Alex Pereira's fight this weekend and why I'm pretty sure he's going to lose, which makes me sad to say because I really like Alex Pereira. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters and champions we've seen in recent years. I was rooting for him against Ankalaev in the first fight. I was kind of hoping the UFC was going to succeed in their mission to derail Ankalaev and just never give him a title shot, which wouldn't have been fair, but I thought he'd probably beat Alex, and I just didn't want to see that happen. And of course, he just kept beating the people they put in front of him. He inevitably got the title shot, and, as I feared, he won. And Ankalaev is boring. I know he's got defenders. He's got people who are going to say, like, oh, but he's knocked out a few guys. Like, what does he got to do to get you to change your mind? What does he got to do to prove he's exciting? And it's like, yeah, he's not the most boring fighter I've ever seen. And he's not the most boring of this current wave of Caucasus region fighters. But he is still part of that wave, and that whole wave is a very boring trend where these guys come over, they tend to win via grappling, they tend to be very safe, very disciplined, very risk-averse. They can be very decision-heavy, and they tend to be usurping much more exciting fighters, as was the case when Ankalaev beat Pereira. Pereira has fought much more exciting contenders who I would have been, less annoyed to see dethrone him. Like, if Jiri Prochazka knocked him out, I'd have been fine with that. But it's much more annoying to have this seemingly unbeatable, just dull Caucasus region fighter once again become the reigning champion. But anyways, moving on. Some people are giving Alex a lot more of a chance than I am because I'm just not excited about this fight. The first fight was pretty boring. I'm very, pessimistic about Pereira's chances in the rematch. And people are looking at the stylistic matchup. Like that, every breakdown I've seen, they're just talking about the style. And if you just look at style, you might have some hope that Pereira will make adjustments, and he still might. And I'll be happy to be proven wrong. Like, this is a video I'd be very pleased to be wrong about. If Pereira knocks out Ankalaev this weekend, I'm going to be celebrating, and I don't care how much crow I have to eat. But and while I see people identifying the relevant factors in terms of the stylistic matchup, they point out oh, Pereira had to fight a southpaw, so he could only throw the lead leg calf kick, which is less damaging. He loves his left hook, and you can land a check left hook really well over the top against the southpaw, but it works better for him against orthodox fighters because he likes to set it up with the jab to the body, and that's, again, easier to land on orthodox fighters, etc. Ankalaev is actually a decent boxer. Pereira, despite having a great left hook, is actually not the best pocket boxer. The pressure really worked well. That was a great strategic read on Ankalaev. He knew he had to come forward. And the threat of the takedown is real, even if he didn't land any, the threat of it just makes strikers hesitant. That is a reliable truth in MMA. Now, again, there's adjustments that can be made in terms of the striking, and maybe Pereira will feel more confident about the grappling in the rematch, but I don't think it's going to work, and the reason is Pereira is fucking old. And I think that's a reason he lost the first fight. I'm not saying it's the only reason, and I've said in videos in the past, when a long-reigning champion finally loses, it can be because of a few reasons. It could be they're just old. They finally passed their prime, and they just lost to somebody. It could mean they finally got figured out because everyone's analyzing them, everyone's breaking them down, trying to figure out their weaknesses. It could mean they finally, just happen to come across, whatever is their poisonous matchup. And it can be a combination of all these things. And I think it often is a combination. And I think the fight we saw, the first fight we saw between Pereira and Ankalaev was an example of the combination. I think that is a bad matchup for Pereira. I think Ankalaev brought a good strategy, but I think Pereira also looked old. And that makes sense because he's 38 years old right now. He's been fighting for 12 years. That's just not a guy in his prime. And certain things you expect to see from aging fighters, certain diminishments, you did see, reflexes not being as good, a less willingness to pull the trigger. These are things you see from aging fighters, and we saw it from Alex in the first fight. And I don't think it was merely that the style was just flustering him so much. I don't think that's the sole reason that he threw hardly any punches the whole fucking fight. I think part of it was aging. And if that's true, that's only going to be worse now. And it's only going to be worse now that his confidence is, diminished. So I'll be real. I'm not looking forward to this main event that much. Like, I'm still intrigued. I'm still invested in the Alex Pereira story, so I'm still obviously tuning in. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm a lot more like. Thankfully, the Marab fight is on this card because that's a fight I'm actually like a lot more intrigued by. I think there's more path to victory for the underdog. I'm less annoyed like either way it goes as far as who wins. But this main event, I don't like Alex's chances at all. And again, that makes me sad to say because he's really exciting and I'm not big into Ankalaev. I'm not looking forward to seeing Ankalaev fight Alberg or fight Jiri or fight Khalil. Like, this is just lame. I'd much rather see Alex win and then maybe go up to heavyweight or something. Like, I want to live in a world where Alex Pereira is the champion. But, again, he's fucking old and I don't see it happening. So, let's find out, I guess.